Take a deep breath, settle into your chair, and let me tell you a quiet story. It's the story of a man named Robert, a man who, like so many others, carried a question in his heart, a question he never dared to ask aloud. Robert was 68 years old, a retired school teacher, a grandfather, a widower. His days were filled with gardening, morning walks, and the soft company of books. And yet late at night, in the silence of his empty home, a thought returned again and again. At my age, should I still feel this way? Is it wrong that I still long for intimacy? That I still touch myself? Robert's question is not his alone. It belongs to countless men who wonder, in the quiet corners of their lives, whether desire has an expiration date. Robert remembered his youth. Back then, desire was a storm, sudden, fierce, unstoppable. But time had gentled him. His hair had silvered, his body had slowed, and the urgency of passion seemed to have faded. And yet it had not died. It lingered, like a candle still burning after the party ends. Small but steady. For a long time, Robert ignored it. He thought desire was for the young, for newlyweds, for men untouched by years. But the flame whispered, "I am still here." The truth is simple. The body remembers. Even in its 60s, 70s, or 80s, it carries within it the memory of pleasure. Yes, testosterone may fall. Yes, erections may be slower, softer, or sometimes absent. But the nerves, the skin, the rhythm of desire, they remain. Scientists tell us that many men in their 80s still dream erotic dreams, that thoughts of touch and closeness never leave us. That sexuality is not a chapter of youth, but a thread woven through the entire story of life. And so Robert began to understand he was not broken. He was not strange. He was human. When Robert finally allowed himself the quiet act of self-pleasure, something changed. He felt lighter, calmer. The ache of loneliness softened. Sleep came easier. It was more than desire. It was medicine. Science agrees. Masturbation eases stress. It helps blood flow. It may protect the prostate. And it restores a simple but profound truth, that even in solitude we can give ourselves tenderness. But Robert still heard the old voices, the ones that had haunted him since boyhood. It's shameful. It's childish. Real men don't do that, especially not at your age. He would pause, hand resting, and feel the weight of those words. But slowly he began to ask, who told me this? And he saw their faces, teachers, preachers, neighbors, all people repeating the same fears they had once been taught. Robert smiled sadly. Those voices had no power now, not unless he chose to give it to them. Of course, his body had changed. He learned to be patient, to slow down, to breathe. He found comfort in using a little lubricant. When dryness made things uncomfortable, he discovered new rhythms, softer and slower. He realized pleasure was not only in one part of his body, but in his skin, his breath, his chest rising and falling. Age had not stolen pleasure. It had simply invited him to discover it in a gentler way. There were nights when Robert felt the weight of absence. His wife's side of the bed was empty. His children were busy with their own lives. On those nights, touching himself was not simply about lust. It was about comfort. It was about reminding himself, I am still here. I am still alive. I still deserve tenderness. Masturbation became less an act of passion and more an act of kindness, a private embrace. Robert never told his friends. He wondered if they too carried the same secret, if they too sat quietly in their rooms, wondering if they were too old to touch themselves. And he realized something profound. The silence is heavier than the act itself. There was never anything wrong with the act. The shame lived only in the secrecy. If Robert could stand before you now, he would say, don't deny yourself because of age. Desire is not a betrayal of your years. It is proof of your life. Touch yourself kindly. Care for yourself gently. Know that this too is health. This too is dignity. Because in truth, masturbation is not simply about sex. It is about honoring the spark of life that remains, even as decades pass. And so at 68, Robert found peace, not by burying his desire, but by welcoming it, not by shaming his body, but by thanking it. He discovered what so many men forget, that you are never too old to feel, never too old to need, never too old to love yourself. So if you carry the same question, should I? Let Robert's story answer you. Yes. If it brings you comfort, if it eases your heart, if it reminds you that you are alive, then yes, you are never too old to be human, never too old to touch joy. Thank you for listening. If this story lifted some of the weight from your shoulders, hold on to it. Remember, sexuality is not a chapter that ends. It is a thread woven through your entire life. Be gentle with yourself. Be kind. And know that you are whole today, tomorrow, and always.